In the spring of 1607, the Susan Constant cut through the gray waters of the Atlantic, her sails straining against restless winds as she carried hope, greed, fear, and ambition toward an unknown shore. The men aboard her deck were settlers of the Virginia Company. Dreamers and soldiers alike, speaking in loud voices of fortune and fame. They imagined rivers paved with gold and forests ripe for conquest. Among them stood Captain John Smith, seasoned adventurer whose eyes searched the horizon not merely for riches, but for experience, challenge, and the thrill of discovery. The voyage was far from gentle. One violent night, dark clouds swallowed the sky and the sea rose in fury. Lightning split the heavens, illuminating the terrified faces of the crew. Waves crashed against the hull, tossing the ship like a child's toy. Amid the chaos, a young soldier named Thomas lost his footing and was swept overboard into the raging black waters. Without hesitation, John Smith seized a rope and tied it around his waist. Ignoring shouted warnings, he plunged into the storm. The sea struck him with icy force, but he fought through the waves, reaching Thomas just as the young man's strength faltered. Gripping him tightly, John signaled to the crew. As they pulled, the ropes snapped with a sickening crack. For a breathless moment, both men vanished beneath the surface. Then, by sheer determination and luck, they resurfaced near the ship's side and were dragged aboard, battered but alive. From that night on, Thomas regarded John not merely as a captain, but as the man who had given him back his life across the vast ocean. In the forests and rivers of Virginia, another life moved in harmony with wind and water. Pocahontas, the cherished daughter of Chief Powhatan, ran barefoot through tall grasses, her laughter mingling with birdsong. She was spirited and curious, often wandering beyond the village to feel the pulse of the land beneath her feet. Though admired for her beauty and kindness, she was more than the jewel of her tribe. She possessed a mind that questioned and a heart that longed for something she could not yet name. Chief Powhatan, wise and commanding, sought stability for his people. He believed that Cocoon, a brave and loyal warrior, would make a suitable husband for his daughter. Cocoon was steadfast and serious, devoted to duty and honor. Yet when Pocahontas looked at him, she felt no spark of adventure, no echo of the restless dream that had begun to haunt her sleep. One night, she dreamed of a spinning arrow circling endlessly before pointing toward an unseen destiny. The vision unsettled her. Seeking guidance, she visited Grandmother Willow, the ancient talking tree whose bark bore the wisdom of centuries. The willow's branches swayed gently as if stirred by invisible spirits. "Child," the tree murmured in a voice like rustling leaves, "change is carried on the wind. You must listen to your heart, for it will lead you where you are meant to go." Soon after, 3 ships appeared on the horizon, their sails bright against the morning sky. The English had arrived. Governor Ratcliffe, leader of the expedition, wasted no time establishing Jamestown in a clearing along the river. Obsessed with wealth, he ordered the settlers to dig tirelessly for gold. He spoke grandly of glory and loyalty to King James, yet secretly plotted to use any treasure to elevate his own status. Hunger and hardship quickly took hold. But Ratcliffe's eyes glittered with greed. While others labored, John Smith ventured beyond the fort's wooden walls. He sought to understand the land that stretched endlessly before him. It was during one of these explorations that he first saw her. Pocahontas stood at the edge of a river, her reflection trembling in the current. When she noticed the stranger, she did not flee. Their eyes met curiosity meeting caution. At first, they could not understand each other's words. She spoke in the Powhatan tongue, he in English. Yet something passed between them beyond language. Through patience and shared gestures, trust began to form. Pocahontas showed him how to listen to the wind, how to see the land not as possession but as living spirit. John spoke of distant cities, towering ships, and lands beyond the sea. Each was astonished by the other's world. Fascination deepened into affection, and affection blossomed into love. But peace was fragile. After a clash between settlers and tribe members, Chief Powhatan forbade contact with the English. He sensed danger in their hunger for land and wealth. Pocahontas, torn between loyalty to her father and her growing love. Continued to meet John in secret. Nakoma, her watchful friend, discovered the truth and warned Cuckoo. Meanwhile, Ratcliffe grew suspicious of John's absences and ordered Thomas to follow him. Seeds of distrust were planted on both sides. One evening, beneath the sheltering branches of Grandmother Willow, John and Pocahontas spoke of unity. They dreamed of a future where their peoples might share the land instead of dividing it. As they leaned close, their lips met in a quiet promise of hope. That hope shattered when Cuckoo emerged from the shadows, fury blazing in his eyes. He attacked John with lethal intent. The struggle was swift and desperate. Thomas, witnessing the fight, rushed forward. Acting on Ratcliffe's orders to show no mercy, he fired his weapon. Cuckoo fell. Horrified, John ordered Thomas to flee before the tribe arrived. When Powhatan discovered his fallen warrior, grief turned to rage. He captured John and declared that he would be executed at dawn. Back in Jamestown, Thomas reported John's capture. Ratcliffe seized the opportunity to rally the settlers for war, inflaming their fears with promises of revenge and gold. Weapons were readied. Drums of conflict echoed across the land. Pocahontas, heartbroken and desperate, returned to Grandmother Willow. As she held John's compass, she saw the arrow spin just as in her dream. It pointed toward a choice only she could make. At sunrise, John was brought to a cliff overlooking the river. Bound and weakened, he met Pocahontas's gaze without fear. Powhatan raised his club to deliver the final blow. In that suspended moment, Pocahontas threw herself over John's body. Gasps rippled through the tribe. She pleaded with her father, her voice trembling yet resolute. She spoke of hatred breeding only sorrow, of love offering a different path. She begged him to see that killing John would not restore honor but deepen wounds. Silence hung heavy. Powhatan looked into his daughter's tear-filled eyes and saw courage beyond her years. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. War cries faded, yet from the forest's edge came a sharp crack. Ratcliffe had fired his musket at Powhatan, unwilling to accept peace. John lunged forward, taking the bullet meant for the chief. He collapsed, blood staining his shirt. The settlers stared in shock. Ratcliffe's true nature was laid bare, furious at his recklessness. They seized him and bound him in chains. John was carried to the village, where healers worked tirelessly to save him. Days passed before he opened his eyes. He knew he must return to England to recover fully. Ratcliffe, disgraced, was sent back to face judgment. Before the ship departed, John asked Pocahontas to come with him. He promised adventure and a life beyond the forest's edge. For a fleeting moment she imagined standing beside him on distant shores, but her heart belonged to her people. The fragile peace she had forged needed her presence. With quiet strength, she chose to remain. On the day of departure, she stood atop a high cliff as the ship unfurled its sails. The wind carried the scent of salt and farewell. John watched her from the deck. Their eyes locked across distance and destiny. As the vessel grew smaller against the horizon, Pocahontas felt both loss and fulfillment. She had followed her heart, and in doing so had changed the course of two worlds. The spinning arrow of her dream had led her not away from her home, but deeper into her purpose. Below her, the river flowed steadily toward the sea, carrying stories of courage and sacrifice. Above her, the sky stretched endless and bright. And though love had sailed away, peace remained, rooted firmly in the land she would always call home.